The Marlins swept by Philadelphia. Heading into the All-Star break, no Marlins games for the next 3 days, but we're going to dig into the Max Meyer debut and maybe the Trevor Rogers resurgence on today's Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and greetings from England. A very, very warm England today. And welcome to Monday's episode of Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, of course, Peter Pratt. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at MiamiMarlins_UK. No TikToks, no Instas. Subscribe to the pod wherever you get them. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're watching, hello, greetings. You can see I'm already sweating up. It's 10:15 p.m. UK time, and it's still scorching. And if you are watching, you will be able to see, of course, you're starting to get a vibe now, guys. Every Monday, UK GOAT in the house, Shaun Barrett. How are we doing, Shaun?
I'm doing well, Pete. Yeah, I'll probably be sweating at the end of this episode as well. I'm doing well. It's nice to know that for the next couple of days, the Marlins can't hurt me.
No, they can't lose a game. They can't. You might be sweating up later, though, brother, because we're going to talk about Garrett Cooper's hitting in July and at some point. So I'll let you ponder on that one. Guys, I'm delighted to announce that today's episode is brought to you by Blue Nile. Make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And going on now is Blue Nile Anniversary Sale. So save up to 40% on classic fine jewelry pieces and 25% on engagement ring settings. Shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. More about those guys later on. Shaun Barrett, we regroup. We come today to talk about a very disappointing 3-game series with the Phillies. At home, the Marlins end up being swept. I believe the total score runs 16-1. 16-1 for the Phillies. Oh, boy. How would you summarize that series, Shaun?
I mean, ultimately, it's a disappointment. We've just come off some tough series against teams that, we were saying if we can come away 500 against the Mets and the Cardinals, and lo and behold, they did. They kept in it and they kept us excited. And we were coming into a series with Pittsburgh and with Philly that we were talking about, and now's the time to eat. Now's the time to get the wins. Now's the time to get above 500. Lucky to split a series with Pittsburgh after losing the first 2 games. But we came away winning to the final 2, so a little bit of optimism going into the Philly games. And then the bats just absolutely died. The pitching was, it was okay to a certain degree. We'll probably get into Meyer's start and unfortunately all the runs that were given up there. But ultimately it's the bats, isn't it? I mean, break out the Peter Pratt thesaurus, it's turgid, it's embarrassing, it's dog shit, whatever you want to call it.
Oh, brother, it was pain. And it wasn't just the Phil series. This kind of predates that, like the Pirates series. You're right to call out too. They were lucky to split that series. Truly, they were. Like, they could have been swept by the Pirates too. It was 2-2 flattered the Marlins, in my opinion, for that series. And then, I mean, the sweep for the Phils, did it flatter them? No, it didn't. It boils down to they should have won the Sandy game in general, but gave up a couple of runs. And then the other 2 games, clearly, like the Phils got up, relatively handily early, and they kind of pitched their way to success. So let's go back though, because the Pirates series ends, and we get the announcement. We get this announcement that Max Meyer will be debuting for the Marlins. Long awaited, a lot of buzz around that. What was your initial take on that? I mean, right before the All-Star break. So interesting timing. It's all going to be interesting again at the back end of that, where you're trying to work out who's pitching where and when and whatever. So Max gets the call. In general, were you surprised at the timing?
I'm surprised at the timing, no, because we've been asking for it for so long.
That's why it was a surprise.
Yeah, to finally get it, made it the surprise. But I think realistically, this is probably the plan all along, to bring him up. I think he probably would have been up if he hadn't had that injury.
Agreed.
They'd built him up. He pitched well. and he was ready. And I think that at that final game where he got injured was probably the final game that he was going to have. And the Marlins, I was surprised they brought him up to a certain degree because in his final start there were 4 walks. He got up to 85 pitches, but because of the walks, I thought maybe they'd make the decision of yes, we've got the pitch count up, but he struggled a little bit. But so for them to bring him up, to sort of have that little bit of excitement just before the All-Star game was interesting because they could have probably waited another week and
That's what I was thinking.
have the excitement that we're going to have from the All-Star game and then build on that. As it is, they've made the decision a week or so earlier. And, it's something to really look forward to in the second half now. Especially as at the moment, the ideas of playoff chances are starting to dwindle a little bit more because every time they get close, they just shoot themselves in the foot. So at least with this having Meyer up, we get a good look at him. And there are a few other bright spots that keep us invested, but it is a case of it's now put up or shut up as far as winning games. So let's take these few days. Let's have a rest. Let's get ourselves ready for the second half because at the moment it does feel like every series is so built up, not just for the team but for us as fans. So a couple of days away just to rest up is something that I certainly need.
You may have sensed that I might be in a similar camp based on my video on Sunday. I was extremely disappointed with how that series went. Really, really disappointed. Just the bats had just not come to life. And it's not like the Phils. I mean, Zach Wheeler wasn't in there in that series. And Nola pitched well, to be fair, on Sunday. He did. And Nola's having a nice year. But Gibson's kind of like a mid-rotation dude. Ranger Suarez coming back after an IL stint. To put up just one run, a kind of second inning. I think it was the second inning of the first game. A Brian De La Cruz sac fly, and that to be it for the whole series is pretty poor, no doubt about it. We'll talk after the ads. I wanted to really deep dive in on Max's start specifically, but one soundbite that I thought was very interesting after the game was Don Mattingly answering a question around, what are we doing with the offense? How are we going to mix and match guys? And he basically said, that's it. Load management. We're going to get away from it. No load management. No guys. It's time to go. Let's go. Something along those lines from Donnie. I thought that was interesting in general, but I mean, it almost feels a little bit too late to be kind of pushing that. I mean, but Donnie, I think, has recognized, listen, this season could fade away. And, the guys are going to have to be out there, and just grind it and get it rolling. So what was your takeaway on that statement if you did see it?
I mean, to a certain degree, the load management has frustrated fans from time to time. But I think there is a justified reason for doing some load management across a lengthy season like this.
Yeah.
But to be honest, in my eyes, I think it goes back to what you said about riding a hot hand. It is that case of the load management. I don't mind load management when guys aren't performing, but giving a guy a day off, after 3 hot games, to me makes no sense.
No.
Wait for him to either cool down or just wait for a day off to give him that day off. You want guys to continue to build through that hot streak and play them. And once that cools down a bit, because baseball is all about luck and percentages, they will cool down, and then that's when you give them a day off. But can we really say that anyone in the Marlins is at a point of must start every game? Offensively, I don't think there's anyone at the moment, especially over the last couple of series. Obviously, Coop had that stretch where he was fantastic, but we'll get into it later on about how he's cooled down. But again, it's a case of while Coop was hot, I would have liked to have seen him in the lineup every day. I would rather see guys that are cold getting benched more rather than worrying about guys that are hot getting benched, because that at the moment is the biggest thing that's hurting the Marlins. It is playing Avi every single game, but batting him in the heart of the lineup every single game.
No
the guys that aren't putting up the numbers start needing to be over benched or pushed down into the bottom end of that lineup.
I mean, the way that things have been going in July, I mean, we've basically got a lineup of, we got 7 number 6s, and we just got no top of the order. It's been, if we keep shuffling people down, it's been real struggle, no doubt. We'll deep dive on that shortly, as well as getting into Max Meyer, guys. But it's time to let you know about our good friends, again, of course, at BlueNile.com. So at BlueNile.com, you can celebrate all of life's special moments. From creating the custom engagement ring of your dreams to gifting a classic and timeless jewelry piece, all at the prices you won't find at a traditional jeweler. So, what have you got to do if you're thinking about popping the question, getting down on one knee, or celebrating a milestone moment? Find jewelry as unique as her with modern convenience of online shopping at BlueNile.com. So, 2 key bits now, guys. Engagement rings. If you're thinking about the engagement ring, here's the beauty. Here's what Blue Nile can do. They've got simple online tools that let you choose diamond shape, size, and clarity, as well as setting style. And then Blue Nile's jewelers will then handcraft her perfect engagement ring. Each ring, one of a kind. Bespoke, baby. If you're not thinking about engagement, you've already got it done. You've already put a ring on it. Then you're thinking about special moments, what you're doing for that birthday. So if you're looking for fine jewelry, having trouble choosing, Blue Nile is jewelry experts on hand 24/7, available via phone or chat to help you find a memorable gift at every budget. So make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And going on now is the Blue Nile anniversary sale. So you can save up to 40% on classic fine jewelry pieces at 25%, and 25% on engagement ring settings. Plus, every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your forever peace. Go to BlueNile.com today. All right, Shaun Barrett, you were talking about guys that are hot, riding the hot hand. I mean, I'm absolutely baked now. I mean, as this show's going on, I'm melting into my chair as it goes. So it's so warm here in the UK. It's absolutely crazy. But I wanted to go back as well to, I mean, the offense has not been good in general, but the Avisail Garcia situation continues to just really hurt the Marlins, in my opinion. They've got really no way out of this one. But aside from that, Soler was added back to the roster, so that felt like a shot in the arm. And to be honest with you, from Soler, having watched the ABs, Soler was fine. He had an unlucky series. He hit a lot of balls hard. Barreled balls just didn't fall for him. Straight at fielders, was what it was. But Avi's still struggling. Soler's still doing what he's doing. I think he's fine. Center field, though, mate, in this series was a very interesting situation where De La Cruz was getting the primary playing time, I guess, 2 or 3. Neither him or Jesus Sanchez are really doing anything right now. If the Marlins are going to change this up, is it just one of those where you just think, you know what, let's get Bleday up here now. Let's send De La Cruz back down, or Jesus Sanchez. I'd probably lean on De La Cruz to send him down, just because we got so many righties already. Keep Jesus Sanchez the left-handed stick and get Bleday up. I mean, what can they do to shuffle the pack offensively? It just feels like there's not tons of options really that can kind of make an impact. So where would you go?
I think one of them do have. Well, I think one or both of them do have to go down. I think they both struggled with the bat, and to be honest, it is a case of how much longer do the Marlins give them opportunities in a year, while competing still is probably something that they're trying to do. Yeah, down at the AAA, you've got Bleday, who again is a guy that we deserve to see at the major league level. He's hitting for power. I mean, he's hitting home runs nearly every night, it feels. Haywar's still down there, as an opportunity, and he's a guy a bit like Soler, where the average might not be there, but on any given night, he's got a puncher's chance of a home run. Do the Marlins still feel like they could make a move and bring in a guy like a Laureano, or go all out and bring in one of these stud centre fielders? At the moment, as it stands, I think that if we continue to see Jesus Sanchez and De La Cruz, sharing time at centre field, that is the Marlins saying we're out on this year, and we're going to look to start to sell pieces, because neither of them are hitting and neither of them shown any progress over the last couple of weeks. And to be honest, they need to go down, and we need to start bringing in some bats that are performing.
I think we're at that point, really. We really are, and I feel like it's going to be Bleday time very, very soon, to be honest with you, like pretty much immediately, straight after. Let's not forget, Brian De La Cruz started at AAA, which was a surprise to us, actually. I think we felt like he would make the roster, but didn't. And that was even when the rosters were expanded, I think, at the time. So it was a bit of a surprise. Billy Hamilton's also on the roster and has fit into his role pretty well. He's not a hitter. He's not there for his offense, but he is a role dude and can fill in, I guess. But the offense just needs more pop right now. It needs more juice. Like, it's looked lifeless for some time. And it predates July, to be honest with you. I think we've all had our concerns about this offense in general. I think it mainly comes down to the fact that, Avi Garcia should be the heart of this lineup, and really it's just been so underwhelming. Cooper Loop, when he was hot, has kind of like kept things afloat, like really kind of Jazz went down. Cooper Loop just kept hitting, though. Now Coop's tailed off in July as well. Jazz is still out the lineup. Soler's back. He had an unlucky series, like I said, so I do still have hope for Soler, but it needs another shot. It needs another shot in the arm because Stallings, we know where Stallings is at offensively. We know where, Miggy Rose kind of, underperforming with a stick, but the glove is still sensational. So the Marlins are leaning like heavily defensive first there in, catcher and short, but, not much offensively. So it's a real tough one. And they've got the two guys at first base, obviously Coop and Aggie kind of flicking between first base and DH. So that kind of then blocks like the Lewin Diaz situation. Again, Avi Garcia and Jorge Soler, they're blocking Encarnacion. You can kind of shunt Bleday in there and go, listen, Bleday, you're in center field, which I think is going to have to be the move. Like, they're going to have to literally play Bleday in center, which he has been playing center this year. And let's be honest, Sanchez and De La Cruz have not been like above average there either. So there's no downgrade, but I don't know, mate. It's just been a really tough stretch. What's been your take on Coop, though? Because he has had a quiet July in general. It's not been great. The offense in general hasn't been great. Have you seen anything different? I mean, it felt early on there were some elements of luck in there. The kind of Cooper bloops were dropping in. Maybe that's stopped now. But is there anything more generally you're seeing with your boy Coop? You'll be watching every at-bat as intently as anyone. I know that.
I think Coop does get, he doesn't get called Cooper Blitz for no reason. His BABIP has usually been pretty high. That comes from having a good line drive rate, basically. He's a pure hitter, and not only that, he hits it to all levels of the field. Like some guys you look at, and they've got a 45% pull rate, and his is in the 20s. So
yeah,
he really does use all the fields. I mean, it can be as simple as BABIP. Every now and then you get luckier than you should, and every now and then you get less lucky. He seems to be fouling off balls, so I don't think he's too far away from where he is. I mean, every time he fouls a ball off his knees or his lower half, I pause for breath.
Me too.
But yeah, no, I mean, I noticed, all the at-bats I'm watching of his, and I'm rooting for him, I'm calling out for him, and he's not delivering at the moment. His average, as it was 320 at one point almost. It's now below 300. So it's been noticeable that it's been dropping. But it was Christina Di Nicola yesterday tweeted out that he was 4 for 47 since the 2nd of July. Good for, well, bad for an 0.85 batting average. So he's definitely cooled down. And to a degree, that's certainly affected the Marlins, especially with, as you said, Jazz down now. I mean, you're right to call out. It's not just July. I mean, you could look at pretty much the whole back half of June as well. Besides, a sweep of the Rockies and a sweep of the Nationals, there's not really been much to root for. So there aren't many series left now with those types of teams. So it is a case of they've got to get together and start hitting, because now the lineup, the games that they're playing are against better lineups. So it is a case of, you could say, and Mish has said it many times, he's waiting for the Marlins to beat a good, win a good series against a good team. And at the moment, I don't see it happening with the offense the way it is.
No, it's Craig's called it out. We haven't beat anyone. We haven't beat anyone in the NL that at that point in time is sitting above 500, and we've just been swept by the Phils. So right to call it out. You're not going to make up ground on the guys ahead of you without beating some of them. And I think the Marlins have kind of found their level. To me, it feels like the way things are shaping up in the standings, to me, feels about right. Like the Marlins are in their own tier almost. It feels like below below the guys that we've been chasing down, the Cardinals, the Giants, and the Phils, a tier below, but basically in their own tier at that spot. Like they are. The others then are kind of quite, in my opinion, there's a decent drop off in talent there to like the Rockies, the Diamondbacks, and the rest in the NL. So the Marlins have kind of found their spot. The key bit for them is, well, how do they join that group? How do they take the next step? And it's clearly they need offensive upgrades. That's been clear. When we look back on this year, which will probably inevitably be a disappointment overall, it's just going to be the fact that the Avi Garcia and Jorge Soler deals haven't panned out. I mean, that's going to be at the heart of it, really. Interested to see what happens with Soler specifically at the deadline. Like, I do believe he is movable. I truly do. And so if they decide they want to go in a different direction, I think they could. I'm not convinced they have that opportunity with Avi Garcia. And maybe they don't. Maybe they're still bought in. I mean, I don't know the answer to that. Us as fans are desperately frustrated with the way things have gone with Avi, but I don't know how the Marlins feel specifically about him, whether they're out on Avi. I mean, it's hard to be out on a guy you've committed to 4 years to, so that's a bit of a tricky situation. But yeah, nevertheless, let's dig into Max Meyer real shortly. But before we do that, guys, reminder, this episode is also brought to you by our good friends over at BetOnline. BetOnline.net, it's your number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. You can find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including NHL playoffs, Major League Baseball, All-Stars, Home Run Derby odds. I'm sure at that. Saying that right. It's not Home Run Derby, right? It's Home Run Derby. Anyway, it's your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. And it's your best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news. Big claim. They've got everything. Any sport you want, betonline.net. It's the fastest and easiest way. You got MMA, you got boxing, you got golf, Major League Baseball, we've already said. Head to the website today. Use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. Bet online where the game starts. Shaun Barrett, Max Meyer's career started, a Major League career anyway, started on Saturday. Hype video was there, a lot of buzz, Sugar Kings jerseys. What was your main takeaways from the actual performance on the field?
Main takeaway was that it was, on the whole, pretty positive.
Mm.
The stuff worked. At times, the strikeouts, the slider specifically, even though one of the home runs was hit off a slider that didn't do much. The slider looked, a major league above average pitch. The control was nice. Just the one walk I said earlier about how he walked 4 in his final minor league game. So the one walk. I was asked before the game from one of my friends, basically, what would you say would be an okay start? And I said 5 innings, a couple of runs, a 9K per 9, and keep the walks to 1 or 2. So the walks were there, the Ks were there. He went 5. So on the whole, the positives. Now the home runs, when he did get hit, he got hit. The first home run from Realmuto was, that was a fastball straight down the middle. And the second that it got hit, I was watching the game on a very, very small screen out in public. And as soon as I saw the swing, I was like, yeah, you got all of that. That's a home run. I just put the phone down. Even at Lone Depot Park, that was a proper home run. So I think on the whole, there are some positives. There are things to build on. There are things to improve on. And ultimately, when you're talking about a rookie in their first start against not a terrible offense, he did pretty much what you can expect him to do. In the end, because of the extra base hits, the numbers look a little bit less pleasing. Yeah. But on the whole, I think it is a case of we're ready to see more from him, and I think he will grow from that start. So I think the next start will be really interesting.
Yeah, me too, mate. I think you've summarized it perfectly there. I think a lot of people were in line with you. They were looking for a K per 9 type of ratio, keep the walks down, give it, a couple of runs. Let's see how we go. And in all honesty, it could have been that. Let's not forget 2 of the earned runs came on Richard Blyer, who came in relief. The Marlins ended up loading the bases, intentionally. and Bly couldn't get out of it. So 2 of them came off him. Granted, irrespective of the load in the bases or not, the hit would have still scored the 2. So for me, Max Meyer, when I look at that in general, my summary, just my feeling, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching it. Actually, I was intrigued to see. What I did see was the slider plays. He's got a heavy reliance on the slider, and so I think the key bit there is, and we've said this already, others have said it. It's developing the changeup where the confidence is higher, and then he can kind of really mix and match, because if you can't just throw 80 sliders a game and whatever. And what I would say, though, the main thing with Max, the Realmuto bomb, the funny thing was, he struck Realmuto out on that exact pitch in that exact location the first time around. But, like you said, Realmuto got it. When you look at the StatCast where it was, the location, it's relatively middle, pretty much. And so those get hit. They get hit, and they get hit hard. And so Max, in the early part, I remember seeing Christina put up, the scatter gun. Where's his pitches been in the first inning or 2? There was a lot around the middle of the plate. He wasn't getting hit hard at that point, but it was a little bit. He was a bit plate heavy, I would say, and so just needs to tweak that, refine it. Gave up the bomb to Realmuto. The Hoskins one too. That was down in the zone, like it was below the zone. So it's one of them. Hoskins, though, to the point though, he's sitting on the slider. He knows it's coming. He knows it's going to be low in the zone. He hits well low in the zone. Everyone hits low in the zone these days. And he got him. It's one of them. And then, a couple of extra base hits come along, and, was what it was. So overall, encouraging for Max. Would have been great if he got out there with just 3 earned, the 2 home runs, and you go, okay, great, we can work on that. He's a little bit, just needs to work the edges a little bit more, but that'll come. That'll come. I liked what I saw. The family interview in the stands was fun as well. His dad was lost for words. Fundamentally, it was funny to see. But encouraging for Max. Shaun, is Max now in the rotation for the foreseeable? And okay, let's just assume that he performs okay and it's all good. Do you think that he's up now and the Marlins are going to give him a long leash to kind of go at it, or is this still in flux? The reason I'm asking that is Cabrera had a rehab, Luzardo had a rehab, Poteet's back up in the mix. He got blown up in that same game, by the way, but nevertheless, there's some guys coming back that have already had an opportunity in advance of what Max did. So how do you think they play this?
It's nice to think that all the Marlins now have too much pitching again.
Yeah.
But we said that to begin the season, and look where we are now. So yeah. I think it is a case of they'll be careful with managing his innings, especially with the injury that he's had this year. You could also argue that because of that injury, then there was time when he wasn't pitching, and there's less innings on his arm. But I think that every pitch that he throws now, unless he really does sort of struggle, which I don't think he will, I think there's enough stuff there for him to work through those struggles. I don't think it'll ever be so bad. I think he deserves to pitch every single inning that he can for the rest of the season at the major league level. Does he finish out in the rotation, taking this spot every 5 starts? Probably not. I think that's you're pushing too many innings at that point. But yeah. I don't see the benefit unless he really does fall off of having him go back to AAA and pitch anymore. He's up now, and I think that he should stick around, and we should see what we've got with him, because ultimately he's going to be hopefully a core piece of this rotation for the next 6 or 7 years at the very least. So let's see what he's got. Let's see him work through, as you said, the pitching too much in the zone. That slider's so good that he'll get swings off the plate with that pitch. As he has through all the minor league levels. So I think it is a case of let him work through, let him learn how to pitch to major league batters. I just don't see the point, and we talk about this a lot, bringing up these young players of let's see them get a consistent time at the major league level, and that's where he is now. There's no more growing down in AAA. We've seen what he can do there. He just demolishes it.
Agreed. And for me, the biggest thing is, let him work now for the rest of the year with Mel Stottlemyre directly, day after day. Work with Mel. For me, That's what he needs. It's exactly the same. Let's think back to Jesus Luzardo last year. Comes over, walks all over the show. Wasn't looking good. Thinking, oh boy, made a mistake. Next thing is, a couple of starts in, Mel's fixed him. Came back absolutely on fire this year. So that's what I want to see for Max Meyer. I want him to give him the full opportunity. But the problem is there's just too many arms again now that are around. Eliezer's already in the pen. Doing well in the pen, by the way. Who would have thought? And, but Eddie Cabrera equally needs another shot. He was electric, let's not forget, in his season debut in Coors. Luzardo was on fire as well at the start of the year. Braxton Garrett, let's call it out. He's been on fire as well. Sandy's on fire. Pablo's on fire. Trevor had his best start. We've not really spoken about Trevor that much, and we've run out of time, so we don't. But he's had his best start of the year, probably. There's a deadline approaching as well, Shaun. I'm just going to call that out. There's a deadline approaching. The Marlins clearly have a deficiency in the offense still. They've clearly got tons of arms. I think even at this deadline, even though they're out of it, they still need to think for the future and try and find a way of making a deal now to help themselves in many ways. Like having too many pitchers right now, I don't think really helps them. I think they need to try and find a way to pull the trigger on something offensively that will help them, not just for this year, but for the next at least two beyond in some sort of position of need, which, let's be honest, there's a few of them. We haven't spoken about Brian Anderson at third base. That equally has been, the stick's actually been okay. But the defense has now fallen off for the BA. He's had a real rough stretch defensively. I say rough, probably overselling it. Like, just unfortunate there's maybe been 3 or 4 instances of balls at him that have got through him that we haven't seen before from BA. But we haven't got time for it today. We're right out of time. So we'll call it on Monday's edition of Locked On Marlins. Thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks to Shaun Barrett for joining me, the UK GOAT. And if you are now thinking about your second listen of the day, highly recommend this one. It's draft season, guys, as we know. So Locked On MLB Prospects has been absolutely pumping the content out. Lindsey Crosby hosts that show, and he has been on fire. Get yourself into that straight after this. See what he's got to say about the Marlins draft, as well as everyone else. It's free and available wherever you get your pods. And that is us done for today. Back tomorrow, of course, because, hey, it's a daily pod. Back Tuesday, and we're going to be digging into the draft itself. The Marlins have been busy. Their strategy has been interesting. So we're going to dig into all of that on tomorrow's Locked On Marlins. In the meantime, enjoy the home run derby. I think Ronnie Acuna shocks Pete Alonso in the first round, but he doesn't win it. Someone else goes on to beat Ronnie. I think Ronnie goes bananas in round 1. That's my pick. Shaun, final one for you. Who's winning this home run derby?
My money's on Pujols.
Pujols! Yes, sir. That would be sensational. Again, we haven't even spoken about Sandy not starting the All-Star game, but again, we've got no time. Shaun, come back later this week. We've got more to get into, I think. So, guys, that's us done. Out of here. Locked On Marlins, Peter Pratt, Shaun Barrett, UK GOATs. Back tomorrow.